All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Torah Studies. Very important dedication tonight. Tonight's class is dedicated to the Refuah Shalema, the speedy and full recovery for a fellow local shliach, Menachem Mendel ben Rivka, who needs a Refuah Shalema. And indeed, he should have good health and everything that he needs at this time. Okay, so let's jump in to our conversation. This week's Torah portion is Vayishlach, and our topic is going to be real estate. Real estate. What are the odds? So I'm going to give a little bit of the background just so that we're all on the same page here. Jacob grows up in a family of 4, right? So it's Isaac and Rebekah are the parents. Esau and Jacob are the boys. Family of 4. Well, like that game show back in the day, there was a Family Feud. Who used to host that Family Feud? No, it was named before Steve Harvey. Back in the day.
Richard Dawson.
I got it first.
Wow.
I got it first.
You actually got it on the buzzer first, though. You get the
Doc, you got it, Doc.
But the show is still on.
Yes, of course. So here we go. So check this out. Family Feud. And we know, it already happened a few weeks ago, Jacob has to leave town. His mother tells him, his intuition tells him, you got to go. It's not good to stay, etc. Great. So he splits. Hey, good to see you. Glad you made it.
Me too.
All right. Copy and a map for you as well. The treasure is marked with an X. We'll be going after class to get it. I'm kidding. Okay. So here we go. Jacob leaves town. Where does he go? And everyone knows the answer. He goes to a place called Haran. Haran is great. It also allows you to clear your throat if something gets stuck. Haran. It's kind of like Chrain. It's the best. He goes to a place called Haran, and he's there for 20 years. By the way, before he goes to Haran, according to our sages, he stops off in a yeshiva. Shem ve'ever. You know, Noah's son, Shem, one of Noah's son. No, I'm not saying Shem like something. No. His name was Shem, which, by the way, in Hebrew means name, which is very complicated. His name was name. Yes, kind of like that. And you know, in Hebrew, a dog is a fish. Yeah, that's also a thing. And he is she. And who is he? So that's what we got right now. Anyway, so Yaakov spends 14 years in the yeshiva Shem ve'ever. 14 years. It's a lot of years. One lesson is, before you get married, you got to study Torah. You got to know, you got to be grounded in Torah, right? It helps. He then goes to Haran. He meets the girl of his dreams. Her name is Rachel. And then they get married. Whoops. Marries Leah, marries Rachel as well. They have kids. They have a bunch of kids. And 20 years later, he leaves. The end of last week's Torah portion, Jacob splits. He makes like a tree and gets out of there. A la Back to the Future, right? He goes. He's bouncing. And where does he go? He goes back home. And in this week's Torah portion, he encounters his twin brother. On the way home, on the way to Israel, he encounters Esav. He's prepared for the worst, and it works out. What happens next? Esav says to Yaakov, let's live together. Yaakov says, about that. Maybe one day. Y'all go ahead. Y'all go, yeah, we'll meet up somewhere. We'll meet up Har Seir. The future, in the Messianic era, we'll meet up. But not yet. Not as of yet. Y'all need to do what you need to do. We need to do what we need to do. My y'alls are getting better over the years, just in case anyone's wondering. And that's it. And then Esav is gone. And Yaakov begins to settle in Israel. And the first stop, the Torah tells us, the first stop is in our booklet. So here's how we're going to do this. You ready? We're going to go a little bit out of order. We're going to start with text number 4. Okay, we're going to start with text 4. Then we'll go back to text 1, and then we'll pull out the map. All right? Don't worry, you're in good hands with Allstate and also with me. So take a look. Let's do this. Text them for David, but give me 1 second. Please hold on. And let me get this ready to roll. Here we go. All right. Please read, David. Please read text number 4.
And Jacob came safely to the city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan, when he returned from Padan Aram, and he encamped before the city.
Perfect. So here the Torah tells us in the 18th verse of chapter 33, the Chai verse, as we might call it, the Torah says that Yaakov came shalem. Shalem, what does shalem mean? Complete, at peace, holy, safely. Shalem means peace. Shalem means complete. Here it's translated safely. I guess that kind of captures all of the above. He comes to the city of Shalem. Why does it say Shalem, safely? Well, think about it. He had just spent 20 years by his uncle Lavan, the trickster, that silly trickster, right? He then encountered Esav. Anything could have gone wrong over the last, 34 years at this point. But he arrived safely to the city of Shechem. Shechem is in the land of Israel, and that's where he encamps before the city. Can someone tell me what before the city means? How did you understand before the city?
Just outside the city.
Just excellent. Just outside the city. If he was in the city, it would have said he encamped in the city. It doesn't say that. It says he encamped before the city. That implies that he was outside, just outside the city. Turn back to text number 1. Dasi, please read text number 1. Text 1a. We're not going to read text 1b yet. Text 1a. Take it away. Perfect. This is the very next verse, chapter 33, verse 19. No smoke and mirrors, right? This is the very next verse. So we just read that he arrived in Shechem, and he's whole, he's wholesome, he's peaceful, he's got his whole family intact, his health is intact, great. And he's encamped outside of Shechem. And then the Torah tells us, and what happens? He buys the land where he pitched his tent. And who does he buy it for? From a guy named Chamar, who's the father of Shechem. The city Shechem was named after this guy's kid. He named his city after his kid. He had some money, one of those things, right? And he bought the land for 100 ksita. That's how much Jacob paid for the land. Okay, great. Now we go to the map. All right, pull out your maps. You have it in front of you. Take a look. It's going to be, I need to direct you. Toward the bottom left, you see Beersheba? You see that? Yeah, Beersheba, right there. Okay, you see the arrow pointing northeastern? Okay, so that's where, so Jacob leaves, they were living, the family before they were living in Beersheba. That's where he took the blessings from his brother, etc. Okay, then he starts leaving. Number 2, could you guys see that line, the timeline, number 2? Yeah, where it says that Eliphaz confronts Jacob. So Eliphaz was the son, one of the sons of Esau, and he runs after him to kill him. His father Esau told Eliphaz, his son, to go chase your uncle and murder him, because remember, he wanted to kill him. So he says, all right, go do it. So Jacob says to Eliphaz, no, don't kill me. You can rob me, take all my possessions. It says that someone who has no possessions is as if is dead. So therefore, it's like you fulfilled your father's, wishes. So at least you did kibbud av on some level. At least you honored your father. A very dark situation over there. Anyway, Jacob continues on his journey, and he continues upward. Number 3, Jacob studies at Aver's Academy, Shem Ve'aver, in Shalem. Shalem is the city, Salem, the home of the witch trials. Kidding. Salem, Shalem, that's where he studies. And then 4 is all the way up. You see 4, Jacob travels to Haran and returns immediately. Goes to Haran, looks like, according to Medrash, he turns back. I don't know, whatever. And then he goes 5, he returns as far as Bethel. And then he continues back to Haran, where he settles for 20 years. Number 7, and it actually goes it looks like it goes off the map. You notice that? Goes off the top of the page. I guess Haran is all the way up there. And then 6, he's coming back down. That's after 20 years by Lavan, by his uncle. He's coming back down, returning to the Holy Land. 7 is the beginning of this week's Torah portion. Vayishlach, where Jacob sends messengers to Esau to check out, how his brother, how we doing, right? And then Yabok River, that's like the next little thing. You guys see that Yabok River? You guys following along with me? Yeah. Yabok River, that's where Jacob wrestles with the angel. Sukkot, that's the next thing. All right, fine, great. Then he arrives in Shechem. We read that, correct? Yes, that was text 4. Am I right here? Text 4. What did we read in text 4? That Jacob came safely to the city of Shechem. Great. So where's Shechem? Right here on the map. You see it right there, like I don't know, west of Sukkot, right? Shechem. That's where he arrives. That's where he pitches his tent outside the city, and that is where he buys the piece of land. Everybody with me so far? Yeah. Okay. Great. Now we have a Rashi, and obviously, like we're focusing on Rashi this year for Torah Studies. And there's an interesting Rashi that you can read. I think I probably say this every class. You can read it 1,000 times, and you would never notice anything wrong. There's nothing wrong with the Rashi, and yet when you look a little closer, there's a lot of questions that come up. So let's explore the Rashi. This is going to be text 1b. Dasi, please read text 1b. You know what? Do us all a favor. Let's refresh our memories of text 1a. So do text 1a again, and you'll do a little text 1b as well, please.
And he purchased the part of the field where he pitched his tent from the sons of Hamor, father of Shechem, for 100 kesita.
Okay, so that says how much. So he bought the land where he pitched his tent by Shechem, outside of Shechem, and he paid 100 kesita. Great. Text 1b, Rashi.
Rabbi Akiva said, when I traveled to the cities by the sea, they call it a ma'a kesita.
Great. Cool. A kesita is a ma. And now you know. Great question. What's the exchange rate? So I'll tell you, interestingly, we know what a ma is roughly in today's value. A ma is equivalent to 1 gram of silver. So what does a good rabbi do? You Google it, but I'm not typing. I've always Googled, which is not even a thing. No one says that, always Google, whatever, right? How much is a gram of silver worth? Today, a gram of silver is worth about $1. So if you want to know the exchange rate, we know the exchange rate. So he gave him 100 kesita. 1 kesita is 1 ma'a. 1 ma'a is 1 gram of the value of 1 gram of silver, which is $1. So how much did he pay for the land? $100. What a deal. What a deal. By the way, if anybody wants, I'm selling the Brooklyn Bridge also for $100. I'm kidding. Okay. So $100. He buys 100 kesita. Kesita is a ma. Good. So what is Rashi telling us? Rashi is telling us what a kesita is. A kesita is a ma. Great. Got a few questions. Have a few questions. I feel like, who was that guy that had that show? I have a few questions. Remember that investigator guy? Columbo. Excellent. Yes. I feel like Columbo here. Just got a few questions. Number one, why does Rashi feel the need to define the kesita? Now, I have an answer to that. There's a good answer. The good answer is because kesita does not appear in Torah otherwise. In fact, in the entirety of Scripture, the entire 24 books of Jewish Scripture, kesita only appears one more time. I forget which book it's in, but it only appears one more time. And so Rashi, for the 5-year-old, for the Ben Chamish Mikra, Rashi feels the need to help to hook up a brother or a sister and say, okay, what are we dealing with? What is a kesita? Help me out here. He says, okay, a kesita is a ma. Now, ma is a term of money that is used throughout Talmudic Jewish teachings. It's in the Talmud. The Talmud talks about ma all the time. I mean, a ma today is $1. So it seems like, okay, that was a basic value, a basic coin or basic value of currency. So we have a ma, kesita is a ma. And then Rashi continues to say, and by the way, in case you don't trust me, the great Rabbi Akiva said, yes, I traveled to the cities by the sea, and indeed they called them ma, kesita. So kesita and ma are the same thing. There you go. Few questions. No, I know I already asked a few questions, but I already answered them. Now a few more questions. Question number one. Rashi, in his commentary here, by defining kesita as ma, actually differs from some classic understandings of what ksita is. What do I mean by that? So there's something called Targum Yonasan ben Uziel and Targum Unclus. You might have heard these terms before. In fact, in a Chumash, you usually have I think Unclus is there in the margin, the inside margin of the Hebrew side. These were two individuals who translated the Torah. Yonasan ben Uziel translated the Torah in the 1st century of the Common Era. Unclus translated in the second century of the Common Era. So we're talking about like 1800, 1900 years ago. They did their translations of the Torah into Aramaic, which was then the spoken language. So imagine like a Torah translated into Yiddish or a Torah translated into English, but that was a pretty authoritative. Those were pretty authoritative. And when it comes to hard words, they often, in their translation, explain what it is. They give that explanation. Take a look-see at what these two translations say about a kasita. All right, text 2a. Ramon, please read text 2a. This is from Targum Yonatan.
And he purchased the part of the field where he pitched his tent from the sons of Hamor, father of Shem, for 100 gems.
Aha. He translates ksita not as a coin, but rather as, and look in the Hebrew. Sorry, well, it's actually Aramaic, but in the Hebrew text, margalion. Margalion, could be, but in here, margalion, like a margolis. You ever hear that last name, margolis? Yeah, margolis actually means pearl in Hebrew, so that's what it means. Margolis is pearl, or pearls plural. Margalion means, I guess, pearls or gems. We'll just call it gems. It doesn't have to be a pearl. Maybe it's a pearl, but it means gems. So he bought. So the Targum Yonatan ben Uziel translates it as that he bought not with ksita ma, not with that coin, but rather with 100 gems. Okay, take a look at Onkelos, the other translation. Ramon, please read this one as well.
And he purchased the part of the field where he pitched his tent from the sons of Hamor, father of Shem, for 100 sheep.
Look at that. Another translation. B'mea chorfan. That's Aramaic for sheep. So we have now two translations of the Talmud that both far predate Rashi. Rashi lived nearly 1,000 years later after these translations. And Rashi says, nope, not gems, not sheep. I'm going to say it's coins. And I have a story from Rabbi Akiva that he also said, yes, they called the ksita. The first question we have, the first good question I would say we have on Rashi is, why does Rashi deviate from some classic interpretations? Now, Rashi has the full freedom to deviate. He has the full right to pick and choose how he wants to trick. But we also have the right to ask why. He can, if there's multiple options, he can choose one, but we're going to ask the question, why? Why doesn't he go with gems? Why doesn't he go with sheep? Why does he go with the translation that ksita means a coin? Specifically, it's the value of a what is significant about Rashi choosing that interpretation? That is question number one. Okay, you with me on the question? Yes? Again, it's a question on Rashi. We have multiple options. It could mean gems, it could mean a sheep, it could mean a coin. Rashi says it means a coin. Now, I know what you're thinking. Maybe. Can I read your minds? Well, a coin is the most obvious and logical thing that you buy real estate with. Who's buying real estate with sheep? Who ever heard that? Right?
Depends on day and time.
Right. You're saying you beg to differ. Sorry. Oh, man.
And it could be that you could buy a sheep for a casita.
Could be. Right. Oh, right. Exactly.
Maybe the conversion between.
Maybe that was the conversion rate.
Between a gem, a sheep, and a coin.
Maybe it's all the same.
Maybe it's all the same.
Maybe it's all the same. Good.
He got the biggest discount, like the gems, sheep,
Right, gems seem like they. Well, we don't know, but it could be. It seems like it might be a lot more. Sheep, I don't know. Sheep is like for me. That's the wild card.
That's a commodity back then.
You're saying people bartered and did that all the time.
I think.
And by the way, the truth is, you know what? Let me back. You know what? I like that. I like what you're saying. So let me backtrack. I like this. This is good. It's happening in real time. I would say that what we know about Jacob, especially in this week's Torah portion, is that he had a lot of flocks. In fact, he was giving, when he gave gifts to his brother, was trying to like appease him before their meeting. What did he send them? Animals. So we know clearly he was an animal. He was moving animals, right? And some people move Bitcoin. He was moving animals. So maybe it makes sense that he bought the land with 100 sheep. I mean, it's probably good to get rid of some sheep when you're traveling because it doesn't make it easier. I mean, trust me, I know. I'm kidding. What does that even mean? Like, I have no idea. But I can imagine it's probably hard to travel with sheep. So, okay. So maybe the more simple interpretation is that it's sheep or gems. Why? Again, our first question on Rashi is what compels Rashi to conclude that the currency was the ma'ah, the ksita was this ma'ah coin? Okay, what compels Rashi to say that? Now, if we continue looking at the text, what we find is that no, it's fine. What we find is that there's another equivalency of ma'ah in the Torah. Now, okay, here we go. Take a look at text 3a, but let me give a quick introduction to text 3a. So text 3a, the introduction is as follows. Remember there was a mitzvah to give a half a shekel donation to build the Mishkan. You had to contribute. Everyone had to contribute a half a shekel. It wasn't a lot, but everyone had to do it. It was the equal amount. Great. How much is a half a shekel? The Torah says, well, 20, a full shekel is 20 gera. So how much is a half a shekel? 10. Good, right? Are you with me so far? So you have to give a half a shekel. Well, that's half a shekel. A full shekel is 20 gera. A half a shekel is 10 gera. Great. But let's take a look now. And Meir, I'll ask you to read. Please read text 3a and 3b.
Shekel is 20 gerah, a word that means ma.
Okay. The gera also is a ma'ah. Which begs the question. Seems like the Torah used the word gera for a ma'ah. So why here does it use ksita? In other words, if the ksita that Jacob paid for the land was the ma'ah, well, then how come the Torah doesn't use the word gera instead of ksita? Which means that Rashi's commentary that ksita is ma'ah is coming under question. Because first of all, why did you choose that it's ma'ah as opposed to gems or flock? And second of all, if you're saying it means ma'ah, well, the Torah has a word that it typically uses for that, and it's called gera. That's the ksita is not what the Torah usually uses for that word. So Rashi's interpretation is coming under question. All of that is one question on Rashi. Who tells Rashi? How did Rashi know? Why did Rashi conclude that the ksita ma'ah was this coin or currency? The next question we're going to ask is on the second part of Rashi. Turn back to text 1b. Remember after Rashi defines ksita as the coin known as ma'ah, right? After that, he launches into another thing. He quotes Rabbi Akiva, and he tells a story. Sit back and I'll tell you a tale. Once upon a time, I traveled to the cities by the sea, and there I found people that called ma'ah ksita. Story time. I mean, like what? Do we get tucked in for like a nap also? Like what's actually happening here? What's this? Why is Rashi? This is so unusual. I mean, if you want to know how unusual it is, look back at text 3b. Rashi translates gera as ma. He doesn't tell a story. With a limerick, well, he doesn't do that either the other time, but like he doesn't tell a story about a guy who traveled. What do we need to tell me what it is? Give me the facts. Why does Rashi in text 1b, when it comes to the ksita, he tells a story about a Rabbi Akiva, who traveled and he found people. Why do we need to know the story? Why do we need to know that it's Rabbi Akiva? Why do we need to know that it happened by the cities by the sea? Why is any of this relevant? That is our second question. And so in short, let me just summarize the questions. Let me summarize the story and then the questions. The story is Yaakov came home, Jacob came home to Israel. And he arrived at Shechem. He pitches a tent outside the city, and then he buys the land where his tent is. He pays 100 ksita. Rashi says a ksita is a ma, and Rabbi Akiva also reported that. And it seems pretty simple, but we have two questions. Number one, why did Rashi choose this interpretation over some other classic understandings of it? And number two, why does Rashi cite Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Akiva's story? Now, you might say, well, he's citing a source and a proof that his interpretation is correct, yet he seems a little bit wordy. Rashi usually gets to the point, and Rashi honestly is not usually that defensive. Rashi usually just gets in and gets out. He tells you what it is, and if you have an issue with it, then you have to analyze it further. He's telling you a story. Rabbi Akiva, cities by the sea. What is this? The travelogue? Like, what are we doing here? Michelin? Like, what is this now? Yes, these are the questions. So I need to share with you the following.
Does
Yeah.
that have anything to do with the fact that he's not comparing a gera to a casita or a sheep to a casita? Keeps taking all of these terms and bringing them back to the ma'a.
Right.
And in some cases, he's saying a ma'a is this, and in other cases, he's saying this is a ma'a.
Right.
So I'm not sure that we're necessarily dealing with so much inconsistency.
Right.
Maybe the ma'a is what is more well known.
The ma is definitely more well known.
So whenever it says gera or casita,
Rashi's bring it back to the coin that we know. Good.
And maybe ma'a really is more generic currency.
Yes.
And so whether we're dealing with a shekel or whether we're dealing with a dollar.
He's bringing it back to a currency that we know.
With a peso.
Right.
Ma'a is a generic term for
Right.
currency.
So I think that is correct. I think that is correct. In other words, I actually agree with that. That a ma in Talmudic language, ma is always used. So a ma seems to be a very prevalent currency or value, currency value. At the same time, there's an option that says gem, an option that says sheep. Why did Rashi choose that it's ma? We understand that he did. The question is why? Like, is there a good reason? And why does he quote Rabbi Akiva and his story? What does that all come back to? I want to share with you an insight that is super, I think it's just incredibly powerful and eye-opening. And what it's predicated on is looking at the story through the eyes of the Ben Chamish Mikra, of the person who's first studying Torah, from a very simple, basic perspective. Because in truth, there is a very basic question that comes up in the story. Forget Rashi for a second. There's a basic question that comes up. And honestly, the question comes up when you look at the map. So let's do a quick look-see at the map one more time. Okay? This is going to be very, very important. Do you guys notice where Shechem is again? Shechem, yeah, right over there. Okay. Do you remember where Yaakov came from? Where he grew up? Which city?
Haran.
No. That's where he got married, and Haran is where he got married. But where was he brought up as a kid? Where did he grow up? Where did he depart from? All the way down to Beersheba in the heart. Right, good, in the heart of Israel. Now he's Shechem. I was in Shechem. And he was then going to ostensibly continue on his travels to return and return to his father. And if you notice number 10, you see number 10 by Hebron. So that is ultimately, so Yitzchak, his father, migrated at some point from Beersheba to Hebron, and Yaakov meets him in Hebron. But my point is, Shechem was a pass-through. You with me on this?
is a what?
Was a pass-through. Shechem was the first city when he crossed into the land of Israel, the first city that he arrived in. And he set up a tent outside the city. What's the question that the 5-year-old, or it doesn't have to be 5, what's the basic question that you and I might ask?
Why would he set it up in Shechem?
What else?
Why not go back to Hebron?
Why? Well, he's on his way. Why is he buying land? Good investment. You're right. Jews in real estate. It's like, why did he buy it? Of course he
Buy
bought
low, sell high.
But he's not going to rent the land. He's not going to just, lease it. He's putting up exactly. Real. But you could ask the question, right? Before you could ask the question. 1 second. He's coming home. He's on his way home. It's the first night. The first night he arrives, sets up a tent outside the city. The next morning, he buys the land. What's he buying the land? He's on the move. Why is he buying the real estate? And yes, we could say because he wanted to buy real estate. But there's a deeper understanding here. Do you know why he bought real estate? Someone tell me. Huh?
Did he buy it the same reason that Abraham bought Machpelah, because he wanted to establish Jews as ownership of the land?
So 1 second. But when he bought a plot for his wife, you could say a reason why he bought a plot for his wife, because his wife needed a plot. But he just set up a tent. By tomorrow, he's going to be gone. Why is he buying the land?
like to plant the flag.
You done?
I think you're saying the same thing as Richard.
Yes.
In other words, but it's not like, but I just wanted to break that correlation. It's not exactly the same as when he buried his wife. When he buried his wife, it makes sense that he would want to own that so that no one could mess around with that. But here he just set up a tent for one night. Why is he buying the land? The only answer is, and the most obvious answer, and the simple answer is, because it's Israel. And because he wants a stake in the land. He wants to own land in Israel. He appreciates Israel. He loves Israel. He wants to buy a stake in the land. That is the simple and obvious explanation. And it's the one that Rashi almost assumes that the Ben Chamish or Mikra, the 5-year-old himself or herself would understand. Why is he buying the land? Because it's Israel. So when the Torah tells us the narrative, Yaakov's coming home, Jacob's coming home. His father and mother have the welcome home Jacob sign ready to go. Right? But there's a few stops along the road. And he stops the first night in Israel, he stops. And he puts up a tent, not even in the city, outside the city. Right? And then it says, and the next day, you know what happened? He bought the part of the land, not even the whole field did he buy. He bought the piece of the field that his tent was on. He bought part of the field. Why? So the obvious answer is, why? Because Israel. A stake in the land, right? As Richard said. As David said, he wanted to buy a piece, he wanted to be invested. He wanted to have a stake of ownership in the land, in the promised land. However, that's a good question. I mean, it wasn't Israel, it was Canaan. I don't know. I don't know how they knew which was in, which was out. Maybe he planned on coming back. There could be.
Yeah.
But now the question is, one second. So you want to tell me that he bought the land? Sure. But why are you telling me how much he paid? That he paid 100 ksitas. Now, when it came, let's understand this. When it came to the purchasing of the burial plot of the cave Machpelah in Hebron, when it came to that purchase, the Torah tells us the amount to tell us that Abraham overpaid. Remember the whole story about how the guy Ephraim promised that he would give it to him for? He didn't promise. He said, "I'll give it to you for free." No, I want to pay for it. All right, I'll take a little bit. How much do you want? Arba me shekel kesef over lasocher, 400 silver coins. That was a lot of money, right? It wasn't grams of silver. These were the maz, the gram. This is 400 coins. A coins presumably are many grams, many ounces of silver, right? So the Torah is there telling us about a guy who overpromises, underdelivers. That's a guy like Ephron. He overpromises, underdelivers. Abraham overpays because that's how much he loves his wife. That's how much he loves Israel, etc. But when it comes to this story, yes, Jacob wanted to buy the land. He went his first opportunity in 34. Now he has his own money. Presumably when he was a kid, he didn't have his own money growing up. Like whatever, he was a kid. Now he's been away for at least 34 years. Now he's back. He's got some gel. He's got some sheep also, right? So now he's purchasing his first real estate purchase, right? There was no J&F. He couldn't buy a tree in Israel beforehand. They didn't have that. So now it's the first time that he could buy. He buys the land under his tent. Great. The question is, why does the Torah tell us how much he paid? This is what Rashi is addressing in Rashi's commentary. This is what Rashi is addressing. So what does Rashi say? Rashi is explaining why it is, very important, that the Torah is telling us how much he paid. Let's look back at the Rashi. It's going to be.
We have 3 instances though in the Torah where King David, I think, and Joseph, where they paid for land, and the Torah wants us to know that it's irrefutable. That there's no.
By the way,
no
yes,
question.
you are correct, and not only are you correct, but it's also the 3 most hotly contested pieces of land of Israel. It's Jerusalem, the Temple Mount, King David bought. It is Hebron, that Avram bought, and it's Shem, right? Nablus, as they say. Judea, Samaria, right? Yehuda, Shomron, and Yerushalayim and Jerusalem. The 3 places that the international community says that we stole, those are the 3 places that we literally have the deeds for. In the Bible, literally we have the deeds for those places. So you're right, Jay, you're right. But let's look at Rashi and see what Rashi adds to that point. Because Rashi does add something really beautiful. Again, we're going to look back at Rashi. Look at what Rashi says in text 1b. Ksita, a coin known as ma'ah. And Rabbi Akiva said, when I traveled to the cities by the sea, they called them ksita. What is going on here? Rashi is not just telling us how much it was worth. Rashi is telling us something much deeper than that. You see, a ksita, yes, he's saying is a ma, but you know what it means? A ma is a value, like you said, David. It's a value, but ksita is a specific coin. What type of coin? The coins that they use by the cities by the sea, and the cities by the sea. What are the cities by the sea? When you think of cities by the sea, what do you picture?
Tel Aviv, virtually.
Good.
Moscow,
In general, what do you
uh,
picture? What do you picture?
Oceanside.
Nice, cosmopolitan, I don't know if that's the right term, but developed, but also style forward, if I can say that. It's places where, it's sophisticated. Good taste. Good taste. Cities by the sea. Cities by the sea are using a ksita. They're calling them a ksita. Ksita also has another meaning. Ksita also means kshot. Ksita, kshot, kshita also means adornment or jewelry. Comes along Rashi, and Rashi says the following. Rashi's telling us that Yaakov, Jacob, didn't just purchase the land because he was in love with Israel. Yes, that is true. But which currency, which coin did he use? He used the coin that was a collector's item. He used the coin that the fancy people by the sea used. He used the coin that is a beautiful coin. It's not just a value. It's not just utilitarian. There's something special about the coin itself. He didn't necessarily overpay. He didn't necessarily pay an exorbitant fee, right? But he used the coin. He went out of his way to use special coins. Let's read this inside. Let's see how the Rebbe articulates this. This is going to be text, maybe five. No. Skip the fives. Let's go to 6. Let's do 6. Ross, I think we're up to you. Page 114, text 6.
To explain the significance of this coin, Rashi quotes Rabbi Akiva. When I traveled to the cities by the sea, they called them ma'ah kasita. The word kasita connotes kishutim, ornaments. Why would the least valuable coin, the ma'ah, be called an ornament? This demonstrates that sometimes, even if the monetary value of the coin is insignificant, it can have sentimental value when it is used as an adornment. They are therefore called ornaments. Using the foreign name kasita informs us that Jacob, out of love for the land, used special coins to purchase a parcel of land in Israel, coins that doubled as ornaments.
Isn't that cool? You ever see like special edition coins or like a silver dollar? Or you ever have like an interesting parallel would be, you ever see those $2 bills that are kind of out of circulation? I've seen people and I've experienced where like people will give kids Hanukkah geld. Hanukkah's coming up, and they'll give them like a $2 bill. It's something special. It's something unique. It's not just $2. It's $2 in a cool package. That Rashi is telling us that Jacob used the coin, not just a ma coin, but Rabbi Akiva said, I saw that they were using this in the cosmopolitan cities by the sea, where everything's fancy, in those luxe beachfront, whatever places, and where all the people are dressed to the nines or whatever the expression is. That's where they're using ksitas. That's where they're using the special coin. It's not just the value of the coin. It's the specific type of the coin. And that explains what's going on here. The Torah is telling us that not only did Yaakov, the first night, the first 24 hours that he was in Israel, coming back after 34 years, not just that he purchased a piece of the land, however big or small it was, and for whatever price it was, but that he purchased the land with special coins. He did it in a special way, out of his love for Israel, out of his love for the Holy Land. He used special coins. He used special edition currency. He used the commemorative coins. He went out of his way to do something special, to go above and beyond. And it drives home such a powerful lesson in our lives. When you love something, you go over the top, right? You do it a little bit better. You ever hear the concept hiddur mitzvah? What's hiddur mitzvah? Hiddur mitzvah is not you're not just doing the mitzvah, but you're doing it in an even more beautiful way than you had to. You know, again, bring it back to Hanukkah. We're in the month of Hanukkah, so it's appropriate to speak about Hanukkah. Hanukkah, from my understanding, is the only mitzvah, lighting the menorah, is the only mitzvah where every single one of us goes mahadrin min mahadrin. Let me explain. The Talmud says that to fulfill the mitzvah of lighting the menorah, all you need to do is light one candle in your home each day of Hanukkah. So for 8 nights, what do you light? One candle. So let's say this is the candle. I don't know. It's a big candle. You light it day 1. Day 2, you light another one. Not 2. You light one candle. Ner. What's it? You light one candle for the home. If you want to go above and beyond, you light a candle for each person. Mahadrin, mina mahadrin. If you want to go above, even above and beyond, if you want to go above, even the above, then you light one candle. Then every person not only lights a candle, but increases a candle every single day. And that's what we do. Hanukkah is the only mitzvah that I'm aware of that everybody goes mahadrin, mina mahadrin, goes be above and beyond, above and beyond. By every other mitzvah, matzah. Okay, there's this matzah, that matzah, whatever. Everyone does their own thing. Buying an esrog, you buy whichever one is in your tax bracket. You buy whatever you can afford, whatever you want. When it comes to a shofar, there's no other mitzvah. When it comes to the mitzvah of Hanukkah, we go mahadrim and mahadrim. We go above and beyond. And the Torah is telling us, Rashi is telling us here the same thing, that Yaakov didn't just value Israel and therefore purchase a piece of the land at his first opportunity, but he used coins that demonstrated that he loved it, and he went above and beyond. He didn't just use standard currency, he used the ksita, he used the kishutim, he used the coins that also doubled as adornments. Right? The coins that were flashy coins, they're still worth the same amount, still worth it, whatever the amount was, it was. But he used the good coins, the flashy coins, the fancy coins, the coins that showed how much he loved Israel. Now we understand why Rashi quotes Rabbi Akiva, because Rabbi Akiva, that was his thing. He would go around and pointing out the small things that show the beauty and the love of another person. He would find the beauty in another Jew, in another person, and say, look at that, look how beautiful it is. The Talmud has famously the Talmud asked the question. Talmud asks, what if a child, lo aleinu, God forbid, passes away at a young age? Child passes away at a young age. Does the child go to heaven? Now, understand the question. The Talmud specifies we're talking about a child who is born to parents that are less than righteous. So the child doesn't have the merits of the parents. The child also doesn't yet have their own mitzvahs because they're too young to do mitzvahs. So they don't have their own merits. I think that's mine. They don't have their own. It's okay. They don't have. Just wanted to make sure. They don't have. I'll move it this way just to avoid confusion. I'm not that protected, but I figure it's, All right. So the child doesn't have their own merits, nor do they have the merits of the parent. So what happened? So one rabbi in the Talmud says, they don't go to heaven. They don't go to heaven. Rabbi Akiva says, absolutely they do. Take a look at this text. This is a very powerful text. Rabbi Akiva, this is text number 7. Toba, please read text number 7 from Talmud Sanhedrin.
Rabbi Akiva said that they are granted entry into the world to come, as the passage states. God guards Pitaim. In the cities by the sea, they call a child Patya.
So Rabbi Akiva, the same Rabbi Akiva that traveled to the cities by the sea. When he was on vacation, he was paying attention to what people were saying. The same Rabbi Akiva who said, in the cities by the sea, they call Ma'akasita. He also said in these very same cities by the sea, they called a child Patya. So when Psalm says, Shomer P'ta'im Hashem, that God guards the P'ta'im, who are the P'ta'im? The children born to the parents that are maybe not so righteous, the children that pass away, God forbid, at a young age. God guards them, meaning God welcomes them into heaven. Rabbi Akiva says unequivocally, no, you're wrong to the other rabbi. These children are not left in limbo. These children are granted protection by God Almighty, as the verse says, God guards pitaim, who are pitaim, these small children that God forbid pass away at a young age, don't have their own merits. Their parents maybe don't have merits, and yet God guards them nonetheless. What do we see here? Rabbi Akiva was defending the underdog. I don't know if you were on the underdog. Rabbi Akiva was defending the person, the people that maybe others didn't even look to defend. One rabbi says, the other rabbi says, look, they didn't do mitzvahs. They're not of age to do a mitzvah yet. Maybe they're a baby. They never did a mitzvah. And their parents don't have so many merits. So that's it. It is what it is. It's unfortunate. Rabbi Akiva says, no, God forbid to relegate these children just to no man's land. No, Hashem protects them. Hashem guards them. They are protected. Rabbi Akiva demonstrated always looking out for the other, always finding a merit in the other, even if no one else is finding those merits. And the same thing is true in this case. Rabbi Akiva goes out of his way to point out that Yaakov didn't just love Israel enough to buy a piece of the land. He loved Israel so much that he used the good coins. He used the cool coins. He used the ones with a little extra flair, the ones that people sometimes use as adornments or find to be, as it were, fancy. He used the fancy coins when dealing with Israel. And this tells us, obviously, a bunch of lessons. Number one, when it comes to Israel, we have to treasure it. We have to love it. We have to invest in it. And not just to do it, but in a way that demonstrates our love. We should use the ksita coin, whatever that equivalent is for us in our own lives. We have to go above and beyond using the ksita coin. We have to go the best. We have to do the best. We have to give the best for the sake of Israel. That's number one. Number two, like Rabbi Akiva, we should endeavor to find a merit in the other, to find a way to show the beauty of the other, to find a way to defend the other, find a way to express the preciousness of the other. This was the way of Rabbi Akiva. And the concluding message, I think, is pretty powerful. Because where did Rabbi Akiva learn these words? He learned what's the word in Hebrew? The patya. He learned that. And where did he learn that a ksita was a ma was a ksita? Where did he learn that? When he traveled to? When he was on vacation. Most of us on vacation, we're not necessarily learning, right? Vacationing, we're enjoying life. He came, right, yes, he went on vacation, came back with slang. But what type of slang that he then used?
Was he necessarily on vacation?
No, I'm taking liberties with this.
Maybe he was traveling to teach classes.
Maybe he was traveling to teach classes, you're right.
He was on the speaking circuit.
Could be. But even if he was working, even if it was a working visit, he was still learning as he was teaching. In other words, there's still something special about being, in a foreign environment. Cities by the sea sounds kind of cool, I will say, right? I'm just picturing like crystal clear blue water. I don't know if it could be clear and blue at the same time. I don't know if that works, but crystal clear water, like maybe some like homes built on like the cliffs or the hills overlooking the waters of the Mediterranean, crashing against the rocks again. And what is Rabbi Akiva doing? He's looking out and he's learning and he's absorbing and he's gaining information that he will then use later to say, these children have a place in the world to come. Yaakov really loved Israel, and here's how we know this. He was learning things that could then be used. And I think the message for all of us is, as we enter, we're already 10 days into the month of December. Many of us go out of town, either this time of year or other times of year. Certainly when it's winter here, it's a great time to go to the cities by the sea, if that's your jam, right? But when we travel, let's make it a learning experience. Let's learn and let's use the information that we learn to benefit others. So we have a lot of lessons from tonight's class. Number one, the beauty, the value, the preciousness of Israel. Number two, the idea that if you love something, you go all out, right? When you love something, you use the good coins, right? You go all out. And the final idea, no, it's not the final idea. The next idea, to always be on the lookout to find something that shines someone else in a good light, right? To an angle that lifts up the other guy, that paints them in a good light. And the final message is the idea of always learning, always be on the lookout for new information, for new slang, for new ideas, for things that you and I can use to inspire ourselves and to inspire others. And with that, we ensure that all of our footsteps guided by God are meaningful and purposeful and filled with lessons on this journey of life. And just to conclude with the beautiful teaching of the Baal Shem Tov. Baal Shem Tov says that wherever a person goes in life, it's always intentional. It's never by accident. And there's always something that we're there to learn. God guides the footsteps of mankind means that wherever we are, we're there for a reason. So there's never an accident. It's not like I found myself, by accident in St. Louis. No accident. You weren't planning on being there. You're there. Good. There's something for you to learn. There's something that the cities by the sea will teach you. If you're there, it's a moment. It's an opportunity. There's a story of Rebbe Chaim Mushka, the Rebbe's wife, a blessed memory, that so she had a driver that drove her around. She went to different places, whatever. Day by day, she went to different things. And one time they were driving through Brooklyn, and there was a detour. This is the way the story goes. There was a detour, and so the driver, went around. And as they're on this detour, they passed by an apartment building, and I think by Prospect Park or maybe Borough, whatever it was. They passed, and they see that there's someone's furniture is being pulled out of the house, like being loaded out of the apartment, which is not so unusual in New York. People move all the time. But it looked like there was a woman there that was a bit distraught. And so the Rebbetzin tells the driver to stop the car and to find out what's going on. He goes out, he finds out, comes back with the report. They're evicting a woman from her apartment. She's late on the rent. They're evicting her. The marshal or whoever it is evicting her. So she says, go back out and find out how much she owes. Comes back with the number. She pulls out her checkbook, writes the check, gives it to the driver to give to the marshal. Says just anonymous gift. Don't tell her where it's from. Cash a check. Put the stuff back. Sei gesund. And that's what happens. And they pull off immediately, and that's it. The driver says to Rebbe Chaim Mushka, like, what inspired you to do this? Or however he asked it, and she said, I don't remember exactly the question, but I know the answer that's told in the story. She said, my father taught us when we were little. There were 3 sisters of the previous Rebbe. Our father taught us when we were little that in general, wherever we are, wherever we go is by divine providence for a reason, but especially when something unusual happens. So the very fact that we were on a detour already sets off signals. Aha, pay attention, something. There's a reason why we're being sent in a different route today. Something that needs to happen. We typically look at detours as an annoyance, like, oh, great, I need this in my life. But meanwhile, the spiritual way to look at it is it's a sign to open your eyes even more. We always have to have our eyes open, but even more when we're on a detour, because there's something here. There's something here that is important. There's something that God is trying to convey to us. And so again, this is the idea that when we're on the move, whether we're there intentionally, whether we booked a trip to the cities by the sea, or whether we find ourselves somehow by the proverbial cities by the sea, either way, it behooves us to pay attention to the messages, to look for the signals, to look for the signs, and then to take those signs and apply them to our lives and to the lives of others. Make sense? And that's Rashi. Pleasure. David, you want to jump in?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great class.
Thank you.
Changing gears a little bit. One thing I was thinking about, if you look at Genesis 33:19, so Jacob buys the field for 100 kesita. Rabbi Akiva lived, 1,500 years later?
Yes. Literally.
I'm trying to think of how to ask the question. How do we know that what the cities by the sea 1,500 years later, they may call it a mob, but how do we know that that's what it was back then?
Good
That makes
question.
sense?
Excellent question. That we could have asked that in the beginning on Rashi. Like Rashi, that's a big stretch. Rabbi Akiva reported that a Maz, a Ksita in the cities by the sea 1,500 years later. But I think it's all part of the same lesson, that Rashi is choosing an angle that paints Yaakov in the best possible light. because that's what it seems like the Torah is doing. It's trying to tell us how much Rabbi Akiva valued Israel, that he valued Israel so much that even though he was there temporarily, he bought a piece of land. It's like when you go to, I don't know, it's like when you go to a place that you love, right? You buy a t-shirt, you buy a sweatshirt, you buy a hat, you buy one of those coins that they smush in the machine. You ever buy those? Right? They smush, they flatten out the coin, and it's like you pay 50 cents for a penny, for a squish penny. I bought them in the past. I don't know where they are now, but they're somewhere. But like he bought a piece, he bought a souvenir of the land, and he used the good coins for it. So you're right. I don't have. You're asking a very good question. I don't really have I don't know. I don't know how Rashi knows that 1500 years later that phrase would still apply. 1500 years prior. That's a very good question. But I do think that it's all part of this idea that Rashi is assuming best intent. Rashi is assuming that Yaakov is really out for to show how much he loves, because he loves Israel so much, he's going to use the best coins. I think that's the angle that Rashi's taking.
It's not even super clear that Rashi is just trying to make Jacob look good, because it's like, imagine if you're like, I'm trying to sell this land, and some dude's like, you mind if I pay and Susan be in that? You're gonna be like, well, that's kind of weird. Like, I guess so.
You're right. Something about the commemorative coins. Something about those commemorative coins. Something special. All right, we should all use commemorative coins in our own way, not necessarily literally, but figuratively. The best coins for the good stuff. The good stuff for the good stuff.
But the other answer to why children are not kept out of heaven is
Yeah.
because they also have had no avarice.
That you would think.
I mean, it's
Right, they're
didn't
pure.
have any mitzvah, but they
didn't have any sins
they
either.
didn't
Correct.
have any sins either.
You're right. According to the other rabbi, that wasn't enough. Like, so what? But you have to come in. You have to come in with a credit card.
That is it.
Right. Yeah, according to the other rabbi, he
Maybe
says,
I didn't do anything right, but I didn't do anything wrong.
right. That's something. Right. And I think that's what Rabbi Akiva is saying, that no, if you're the child, of course the child. Pleasure, good to see you, Ross. See you Shabbos, not sooner. Yeah. All right. Good stuff. Good to see everybody. David and Susan and Danny and Eric. Good to see you. Sandrine and Joy and Sam and Kay and Larry and Mark and Merle and Susan and Richard and David. And David.
Good night.
We'll see you soon. Oh, good luck.
It'll be good.
All right.
Thanks,
Peace.
everybody. Thanks, Rabbi.
You guys. Pleasure. Lila Tov.